my screen with all of you right now, and then we will dive into the topic of what I call a personal innovation plan. So this is something that I put together and I've used probably over a dozen times, mostly with early career professionals and more mid-level professionals, for really trying to help you figure out a little bit more about what you want to do with your career. So I'll dive into this. If you have any questions as we go through this, don't hesitate to reach out through the chat. I'm happy to answer those questions. But let me kind of talk about what I go over. Let me just hide this real quick. What I talk about with the personal innovation plan. So I really boiled down to 6 things, and the reason I find this helpful is it actually a lot of things we talked about today we've hit on. This kind of brings everything together, which is why I wanted to do it last. So you heard Dr. Dropkin talk about your core values. So one of the first thing I have you do is define your core values. Then we have you identify your key strengths. Me personally, I love the Clifton Strengths Assessment, so cliftonstrengths.com. If you've never done it, it's a great tool to figure out what are your strengths. So that's how I would identify your strengths. And then I take your values and strengths and encourage you to document your competitive advantage. So while you're searching for jobs, what differentiates you from everyone else searching for that same job, right? So what is that unique thing that differentiates you? What is that special sauce that you have that no one else has? That's your competitive advantage, right? So I document that, and from there, I think it's really important to have a personal mission statement. I'm going to share my values and my strengths and my competitive advantage and my mission statement as an example for this activity. Then we'll talk about personal brand and identifying your network of mentors and coaches. So these are just things I want to try to bring everything together for you in one quick presentation at the end before we did the Ask Me Anything. And I'll share this as well. Hopefully this helps all of you that are out there searching for jobs and that are open to work. So first thing I talk about is your core values. And I love that activity that Dr. Dropkin had about defining your core values, but these help you make decisions and guide your behavior both personally and professionally, and they embody what you stand for. They could change over time. Like I always share the example, when I was 25, my core values were very different when I had no kids, and I wasn't married and didn't have a house, as an example, right? My core values at 39 with 3 kids and an amazing wife are very different. So it's okay for your core values to change because of major life events. That's pretty normal. But this is really like deep down who you are, and a lot of this will help guide you on what you do for maybe work, as an example. So that's really, in my opinion, step 1. And I can share some activities to help you define those core values. From there, what I focus on next are your strengths. And I mentioned I like the Clifton Strengths Assessment. It's $50 to get your 34 strengths. I've used it countless times in my full-time job and also with my nonprofit. But this lets you understand what you naturally do well. So what are your superpowers? And the whole idea of this is, if you lean into your strengths and take advantage of what you do well, you are naturally going to be more successful personally and professionally. So that's why identifying your key strengths, in my opinion, is so important, especially for those of you that are searching for a job. If you look for a job that plays to your strengths, you're going to be better at that job, you're going to be more successful, and you're going to be happier in that job. I always use the example, if you asked me to mine data in Excel all day, could I do it? Sure, I could do it. Would I be happy? Probably not, and there's probably people that could do it better than me. So you want to try to find, if possible, a job that aligns with your strengths. But if you don't know what those are, that's hard to do that. So that's why I like identifying them. I think is a really important part of your journey. So the next thing that I wanted to highlight, and this is what I think, again, like what makes you different from everyone else, document your competitive advantage. So it comes from your core values and your strengths, and it's what differentiates you from whether you're at a job and you have teammates or colleagues or other job seekers out there. This is what differentiates you from the others applying for that job. And you saw what Sarah showcased earlier with LinkedIn Premium. There's a lot of great resources with LinkedIn Premium that helps you figure out, what are those things that you need for that job that you want to apply for, right? She mentioned the skills piece, but this, by documenting your competitive advantage, you can clearly articulate to someone in an interview, why do they want to hire you over someone else, right? So someone mentioned elevator pitch in one of the questions. What if someone asked you, well, Nick, why should we hire you for this job? You would want to be able to share your competitive advantage in that answer and clearly articulate why they should hire you for the job versus candidate X, candidate Y, or candidate Z. So that's why I think the competitive advantage is so important. So let me bring you to the next slide and show you. One too far here. I want to show you what I've documented for mine, right? So this is my core values, my top 5 strengths, and what I've documented is my competitive advantage. So my core values, again, there's a lot of exercise out there to define these, but I came up with caring, leadership, loyalty, innovation, and motivation. My key strengths, according to Clifton Strengths, are achiever, activator, communication, competition, and woo. And then I actually, developed this competitive advantage. I documented this, and I had to iterate on it. It wasn't something I came up with in a few minutes. I came up with an idea, then I kind of iterated on it. I bounced it off some people, but I came up with what differentiates me from other people, right? So I think I have the unique ability to develop a strategy that addresses the big picture, deliver that strategy by promoting the idea, motivating people, and executing the plan. I'll use the Open to Helping event today as a perfect example. I love helping develop people. I saw there was a need for those that were open to work. I came up with an idea. I promoted the idea. I recruited some volunteers to help actually present today, and I executed the plan, which is what you're seeing today. And thank you again for all of you that joined. So that's my competitive advantage and how I would actually leverage that. Now, that is, again, something I think you would want to be able to articulate to someone in an interview. What is that competitive advantage you have? Now, I like to take it one step further and actually develop a personal mission statement for yourself. And this isn't necessarily just about the job you're looking for, but it's really more about life, right? So this should embrace your core values, your strengths, your passions. It should take into consideration your competitive advantage, which you just created. And in my opinion, it's like your North Star when you're looking to make key decisions, like taking a job, right? So I'll use the example. You really want to take a job and work somewhere that aligns with your core values and what you stand for. You might not want to go work for a company where you don't agree with what they do or the mission of what they do. It makes it a lot easier to go to work every day if you agree and are aligned with the mission of the company that you work for. Now, I absolutely understand what Dr. Drapkin said. Some of us are not in the position to take a job, to wait for that job that might align with everything that we want because we need to feed our family, as an example, right? Totally understand that. Sometimes you have to take a job because there's a variety of extenuating circumstances that you need to take it to have the proper resources to take care of you, your spouse, your loved ones, your family, extended family, whatever the case may be. But I really just want to stress that you really want to try to find a company that aligns with your personal mission statement and your core values. I can't stress that enough because I've seen a lot of people take jobs with companies that really didn't align with what they was core to them. So once you do this, and let me go to the next slide. I'll share. This is my personal mission statement. And then I actually share. I have some examples from some people that are much more famous than me. But I thought it was cool. I did a search on the internet when I created this presentation and found some other people's personal mission statements. So mine is empowering, inspiring people to reach their full potential, and that is actually like exactly what I do with my initiative, the Full Potential Movement, which is part of my family's nonprofit. And I just love doing that, whether it's with my nonprofit, whether it's at work as an HR innovator, whether it's my family, right? That's just, that is what I enjoy doing, right? You see the other ones here. So Oprah's is to be a teacher and to be known for inspiring my students to be more than they thought they could be. And Sir Richard Branson, to have fun in my journey through life and learn from my mistakes. There's no right or wrong answer here, everyone, right? This is, your personal mission statement is it's yours, right? So make it yours. It absolutely can evolve. as major life events happen. So I mentioned, I have 3 kids. That was a major life event for us, and a lot of things changed in my life when I had kids, and me and my wife had kids. I think it changed me as a person in a very positive way. And I think many of you that are on here today that have children would probably agree with that. So it's okay to change, and it's okay to pivot based off of big things that happen in your life. So the last thing that I think is really important about this is, once you actually have come up with this, right? I think it's valuable to share it with other people and get their thoughts, right? So talk to some friends, talk to some family members, talk to some colleagues, talk to a mentor, and share with them and say, hey, what do you think of this, right? Like, you could even go through and share, if you wanted to, share your core values with someone, share your strengths, share your competitive advantage. But I think sharing the competitive advantage and the mission statement are actually the most important thing to share with others. So you want to get their thoughts, right? Because they might bring something up that you didn't even think of, that they know is really you, but it's so innate to you, you didn't even think to include it, right? So just consider sharing and getting feedback. I love getting feedback from others because I always want to see how I can be better. So that is something I think it's a valuable, sharing your competitive advantage and your mission statement with others to kind of get their thoughts. Now, so the thing I would say next is, in this whole idea of this personal innovation plan, having this personal mission statement, I think it grounds you, and it should help you if you're looking for a job, understand what you want to do, where you want to work, and the why, right? Because this mission statement is really your why, is the way you want to think about it. If you're a Simon Sinek fan, you'll understand what I mean by your why. The next thing I talk about, and again, all of this is trying to kind of put a bow on everything we talked about today. We mentioned networking today. We talked about LinkedIn today. We talked about your resume today. All of that we talked about is your personal brand, right? So all kind of wrapped into one. And I know this is like a very common topic that a lot of people have probably heard, whether it be on a presentation online, a webinar, or a course on LinkedIn maybe, or a TED Talk. But the idea of a personal brand is, when someone thinks of me, thinks of Nick Wagner Sr., what do they think of, right? It doesn't mean that like you have a logo like I do down here in the corner, right? That's not what it means. It means, what do people, when they think of you, what comes to mind, right? And everything that you do, both, and now it's pretty much everything, right? Everything you would do online or virtually, right, on the internet or in person, can affect your personal brand. So I want to just talk a little bit about this in detail for those that are job searching, because I think this is really critical to those that are open to work. We talked about how important LinkedIn was as like that professional networking site, and it's really it's your online resume, if you will. Is a lot of ways people talk about LinkedIn. Something that's just as important is, any of you that are open to work, searching for jobs, none of your personal social media should be open for a recruiter or anyone else to see. So if you have Facebook or Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or TikTok or Snapchat, all of that should be locked down so people cannot see it, right? I have no problem if you have those social media platforms, but you don't want someone going and checking those out, right? And the reason for that is because you might have something there that might make someone think a certain way about you that you don't want them thinking, right? People can pass judgments on people for a variety of reasons. You want to take that out of the equation. So if you went and looked up me on Google as an example, you'd find my personal website, you'd find my LinkedIn profile, you'd find content that I've done on YouTube. You might find that I have a Facebook page, but if you went to Facebook and looked me up, it would be private. You'd find my public Twitter, but my public Twitter is just a bunch of content I post on LinkedIn. So you really have to be careful about this, and I can't stress this enough, because all of your digital footprint is part of your personal brand. And this is very different from, I graduated from the University of Connecticut in 2003. Mark Zuckerberg was building Facebook when I was at college, right? I didn't have Facebook or social media when I was in college. So it's very different now for people looking for jobs than it was, even 17 years ago when I graduated from college. So I really kind of highlight this because it's a common question that a lot of job seekers talk about is, what do I do regarding my social media? The other thing about this, right, you just kind of continue on that trend. When you get that job that you want, and your job search is over, and your boss friend requests you on Facebook, it is okay to not accept that friend request. I've talked about this with a lot of early career people. They're like, Nick, I don't know what to do. My coworker or my manager friend requested me on Facebook. Should I accept that request? And you don't have to, right? And you just reply, decline it and say, hey, I just keep Facebook for my family and friends, right? My close personal friends. What I would not recommend is just ignoring it, right? And leaving it out there, because they're going to know it's out there. So don't make it awkward. Just be honest with them that you're not going to connect with people from work on your personal social media. That's totally fine. But that's a very, I think, a really important thing to highlight. The other part about your personal brand, besides like that digital presence with social media and a website or a portfolio or anything where you share your work, it is really, when this is more relevant when you're in an office or in person, is who you identify with, right? So at work, right? For those that are not looking for jobs, that are in companies today, who are you associating with, right? And what is the personal brand of those individuals? Sometimes your personal brand can actually be tainted by people that you hang out with and associate with, because they don't have a good personal brand. So think about that when you're interacting with colleagues and coworkers in the office or outside the office, and really just be cognizant of this, because I think it's really something that I try to stress. You want to always kind of realize, right? That who you hang out with sometimes rubs off on you. We do have a question. So recruiters should try to respect the privacy of the applicant and not try to find them on social media other than LinkedIn. Completely agree. I can tell you that I have heard stories from people where recruiters have found them on other platforms, right? So I give that advice because my thought is just avoid the situation completely, right? If your Facebook and Instagram are private, people can't find that information, right? And they can't make, there won't be any issue at all, because they won't even be able to see it. So that's just, again, my recommendation. You can choose to make what you have either private or public. That's really up to you, but that's just that's my thought on that. So the last thing I want to hit on today, and I'm going to open it up to questions, is identify your network of mentors and coaches. And this is so important for building your personal innovation plan, because I like to call these people your personal success team, right? So this could be family, friends, mentors, coworkers, a manager, a colleague, a previous colleague from another company. There's so many different groups of people that fall into this network of your personal success team. But remember that there's such a huge amount of value in having a mentor, right? You can have more than one mentor. So I have multiple mentors depending on what the topic is. So you can have more than one mentor. There's a difference between a mentor and a coach. So a mentor is someone you go to for advice, and they will provide you with advice and have discussions with you. A coach is someone more that kind of asks you questions to get you to answer your own questions. They don't really necessarily give advice. They coach the answer out of you, if that makes sense. And then another one that I didn't add on here is the idea of a sponsor. A sponsor is someone that would be typically someone very senior in a company that has influence, that could help you find your next opportunity or find your next job. So that's just another type of person that I wanted to highlight in this network, this personal success team you have. And I always tell people, like, create a list of these contacts, write them down, and you want to make sure you stay connected with them. This is going back to the networking piece that we talked about earlier with John and MS. Don't start networking the day you need a job. Network years before you need a job. That is the most important thing you can do. And do not be afraid to call your network and connect with people in your network when you need advice. That is what they are there for. So make sure that you are there for them and they will be there for you. It's a two-way street. So I always make sure I highlight that.